think my wife, let's call her Amy, hates me. We've been together since 2018, married since 2022. We had twins last January, and since then she has changed so much. When she and I first started going out, she was very clear that she never wanted children. She had a copper IUD in and said she intended to get her tubes removed once it expired. But the day came and she had the IUD removed and was told that they wouldn't allow her to get her tubes tied because she was too young. She asked me to get snipped, but I didn't have medical insurance at the time, so couldn't afford to do so. A few months later, she said she changed her mind and wanted to try for children, so we did. She had 2 miscarriages before she got pregnant with our identical twin boys. I was extremely happy, and despite her being sick constantly, she seemed happy too. She gave birth when she was 32 weeks, and the boys spent 7 weeks in the NICU. My wife took this really hard. She constantly blamed herself because she worked up until she had to give birth, and says that had she done the bed rest like her doctors suggested, our boys would have stayed in longer. She also beat herself up a lot over not being able to breastfeed. She never established a milk supply because she was so stressed after birth and ended up with some kind of infection, and was told any milk she pumped after antibiotics would have needed to be dumped. After that point, she was extremely distant from me and our kids. While I was on paternity leave, I was the main caretaker of the boys. I changed all their diapers, fed them, bathed them, everything. I took them to all their doctor's appointments by myself, and my wife just laid in bed, completely shut out. My wife was supposed to start back up work remotely, but her job decided to not allow remote work. This sent her into a spiral because they ended up terminating her position. Without her working, we couldn't afford childcare, so she just stayed home all day with the boys. She didn't cook or clean, and talked about how she hated being home all day and how she missed working. We fought constantly because I felt like it was unfair. I wanted to be home all day doing nothing. I wanted to be a stay-at-home dad, and she was taking it all for granted. Well, now the boys are a year old, and I feel like nothing has changed. She still just sits and stares blankly, barely talking to me or engaging with our boys. I constantly ask her to help around the house, or to literally anything besides sit and stare. She looks like she's lost 30 pounds since giving birth, and she's so pale, but whenever I mention anything to her, she just yells at me to leave her alone. Our sex life is almost non-existent, and when we are having sex, she just lies there, not making any sounds or moving. I feel like she hates me and hates our kids and the life we've built. How do I talk to her? I am close to taking the boys and asking for a divorce because I'm tired of talking to a wall. Edit, update. I wanted to jump on here and give clarification for word choices I made while in the heat of the moment. I posted this right after an argument with my wife because I was just so hurt and angry and confused. I said I wanted to be able to be a stay-at-home dad and do nothing all day. I worded it this way because many times, including yesterday, I have come home from work and my boys are in their cribs wearing dirty diapers with rashes while my wife is either sleeping or completely zoned out on the rocking chair. It has felt like she has done nothing all day, but it isn't true, and I know that. Are you completely unaware of postpartum depression is a question I was asked a lot. And the truth is yes. I live in Texas, where sex ed doesn't really exist. I was never taught anything about pregnancy, labor and delivery, or the 4th trimester postpartum. Doctors never gave us information on it. It was mentioned once in the beginning of her pregnancy by a doctor in passing, but I neglected to ask for clarification or do any research on my own. I also failed my wife by not bothering to Google her symptoms, which could have easily shown me postpartum depression. How did you let this go on for a year without asking for help or advice? This is not a good excuse, but I didn't know that this was a hormonal issue at all. I genuinely believed my wife was just being neglectful and emotionally distant because she hated me and hated being a mom. I work almost daily, usually 12-hour shifts on a construction site, so coming home to a messy house, fussy babies, and having to clean everything and make dinner just resulted in anger on my side. So I just let that frustration build rather than try to understand her. Do you have any friends or family who can help? Unfortunately, we don't. My mom is out of the picture, and my father is dead. My wife's family was abusive to her growing up, and our friends abandoned us due to rumors my mom spread online, where she was telling everyone my wife had 2 abortions rather than 2 miscarriages. You have been having sex with her when she isn't emotionally involved? I should have added more details here, and can see why a lot of people were angry at my comment about our sex life. I honestly thought it was important to add that it has been non-existent, and when we had sex, she was uninvolved. My wife after birth was the only one to initiate intimacy, and I believe now it was out of guilt. We haven't had sex in months because I don't say yes anymore, and I don't ask for it. I shouldn't have said yes previously, and I know it was wrong of me. Do you even love your wife? Of course I love her. I posted this out of anger and frustration because I believed that it was she who didn't love me anymore, and I thought I was the main problem. I made it all about me when it isn't me at all. It's this disgusting and awful disorder that comes after giving birth. I was just so angry because I have asked her to get help so many times, and she has either yelled at me to leave her alone or she has just stayed quiet. But now I know that I need to get her help, regardless of if she wants help or not. I am getting her signed up for an intensive outpatient therapy program that is online, so she doesn't have to deal with the trauma of going back to a hospital. I am also going to be hiring cleaning help, so my wife has someone home with her, and someone who is able to clean and take care of the chores while my wife is emotionally incapable. I am so sorry to all the birth givers out there who have experienced this hell my wife has been going through, and I feel for the parents who have had to watch their partners go through this. I wish I had informed myself of what was happening, and I can only try better from here on out. I haven't spoken to my wife yet about my intentions, but I plan to when I am off of work. Thank you everyone who was honest with me and provided information and insight to what was happening. Update. I spoke to my wife last night after I got off of work. I started it out by asking her if she had heard about postpartum depression, and she said she did know, that a doctor described it to her right after she gave birth. I asked her if she thought she might be experiencing it, and she said no. She didn't believe postpartum depression would last this long, and I asked her if we could look up statistics and information on it together, so we did. She was pretty quiet while we did this, but when we were done I asked her if she related to anything about it. She told me yes, everything the articles described was exactly how she has been feeling. I then asked her if we could get her signed up for online therapy, and I suggested I hire help for cleaning. She agreed to hiring help, but she is still hesitant on getting emotional support due to her birth trauma. I told her that I would be discussing with the boys' pediatrician on other options that might be helpful for my wife. I haven't brought up relocating yet. I want to give her some time to process our conversation first before adding to it. I called out of work today and will be taking my wife out to lunch at her favorite spot in town and paying for her to get her hands and toes done. I know it won't come close to making up for my negligence for the last year, but it's a start. Comments full of all trades. Have you considered she might have postpartum depression? Has she been evaluated by a professional for this since giving birth to the twins? Aggravating as 7763, agree with this take. I would not even say the divorce word with postpartum hormonal changes depression. Your wife is still in there somewhere. Update 5 days later. Edit. Thank you everyone for all of the support for my wife and I. We were messaged so many resources and guides for navigating through this rough course in our lives, and I will forever be grateful that I posted onto this subreddit. Everyone helped me open my eyes to everything that was going on, things I never would have even considered had I not come here for help. My wife watches Too Hot Takes sometimes, and I usually listen with her while I do dishes or sweep mop, and thought that maybe this subreddit would be a great go-to for advice on my marriage. Because on Reddit and on YouTube comments, you all are so brutally honest and to the point, and I knew I needed that to get this crap sorted. You all were so quick to point out my wife's postpartum depression and directed me in ways that I have fallen short with my wife. Thank you everyone for the constructive criticism and the honesty. I would not have been able to get to this point of reality if I had been coddled and pampered. My wife actually laughed for the first time today when our boys started laughing at the word booty. Boys will be boys, haha. It was the most beautiful sound I have ever heard, and I haven't gotten to listen to it in so long. She seems to be in much better spirits, which I will keep an eye on, as I know sometimes that can be a red flag for suicidal ideation or intentions. My wife had been trying to be more honest with me on how she is feeling in the moment, and we have her established with group therapy starting Monday with orientation. I wish I could say thank you to everyone personally and individually for hopefully helping us save our marriage and potentially for saving my wife's life. I genuinely couldn't have done it with this subreddit. Thank you, Two Hot Takes, for having such a huge and wonderful platform where people can come and receive advice and honesty. It's a beautiful thing you have here. I'm gonna go and start making my wife's favorite dinner and watch the Hunger Games for a movie marathon, something we haven't done in over a year. This will hopefully be my last update and last post in this subreddit if everything goes well. Thank you. End of edit. It's been a day or so since I added an update on my original post, but this update I thought needed its own post if it's allowed. I scrolled through this subreddit to see how others posted their updates and saw a few. Hopefully this is allowed. So after begging for several days, my wife finally gave in and agreed to online therapy. We picked a program we thought would benefit her best and got it situated. She has an intake phone call tomorrow that will organize her hours, what group she is assigned to, and who her personal therapist is. It's an intensive outpatient group therapy program, goes for about 12 weeks. I have also reduced my hours at work by request, asking for 6 hours on shift during the weekdays, and I am on call during weekends for call-outs. It is temporary until my wife is better. I have also hired cleaning services to come weekly. She is the wife of a coworker of mine, and she has 3 kids of her own. I spoke to her directly, and she offered to help my wife with the boys if my wife ever asks for help, with no extra charge. My wife and I are openly discussing breaking up temporarily. During our discussion last night, my wife opened up about how she hasn't been happy and how she has had an ongoing online affair with someone. I don't blame her for the affair. I can't imagine how alone she has felt this last year with me working constantly and always putting the boys first. She texted him in front of me saying it was over, that she wanted to prioritize our marriage and her mental health, and then blocked him on every platform she had him added onto, which gave me a lot of reassurance. My wife was the one who suggested a temporary breakup. I don't think it would be appropriate given her mental health at the moment, and asked that we just work on her getting better before discussing any marriage issues we have. She also opened up to me and let me know she has been self-harming, and showed me where, and it's awful. I had no words to say, except apologize profusely for my negligence. I didn't notice anything for months. She said she started hurting herself after we stopped being intimate. She didn't have a reason why. Once she is halfway through her outpatient program, we decided that's when we will start marriage counseling. That way she had time to develop some healthy coping mechanisms. Because we know there is a chance that marriage counseling could bring out a lot of the worst in us as individuals, and we wanted her to be as prepared as possible while still getting individual help in her program. I will also be starting individual therapy once marriage counseling is set up, so I have a healthy outlet. Not the update I wanted to provide, but I hope that in the future I can give a better one. I'm honestly just glad my wife agreed to therapy and is willing to work us out together. I will never be able to make up for the last 12 months I haven't been by her side, but I will try for the rest of my life with her to make amends for it. Comments. Huge Shallot 5297. Your original post has been on my mind a lot, OP. At the time, all I could think was, how could you both be so uninformed about the whole process of pregnancy, birth, and postpartum? I will admit that I still can't understand that, but I can appreciate that you understand the mistakes that were made and are actively trying to make the situation better. Many partners would just throw in the towel, and you're not doing that, so I have a lot of respect for you. I wish you both luck. I truly do. I hope it all works out for your family. Oh, thank you so much. I honestly have no valid excuse as to why we didn't inform ourselves of what could come with postpartum. We were both so focused on the pregnancy and making sure the boys were okay, especially after losing the 2 pregnancies prior, we didn't bother researching what occurs after birth. And that was negligence on our ends. I refuse to throw in a towel, especially if she is willing to work with me through our errors. I fell in love with her, and when we got married, we said through sickness and health, and she is very, very sick. She just needs some help right now, and needed it a long time ago. But what I didn't know then, I do know now, and I will do my best to fix what I wronged. Potential quantity 292 OP. I commend you for this answer. You may have your faults, as we all do, but you're obviously very sensitive to her needs, loyal to her and her well-being, and true to your vows. It takes a lot to admit when we screw up, and even more to take the hard road to work it out versus the easy road of just dipping out and leaving her in such a vulnerable state. I wish your wife well. How to care for twin toddlers as a single dad. 1 month later, edit, I have posted in this subreddit twice before this in regard to my situation, if anyone wants context to this. I don't honestly have energy to answer questions in my messages or in the comments. This is going to be very jumbled and might not make sense. My mind is everywhere right now. I went to work 2 days ago, only for 4 hours because I had booked a flight for my wife and our twin boys that evening to go to northern Washington State to look at houses with our realtor. I had packed everyone's suitcases the night before, and I was so excited to take the trip. I took a week off of work and planned to take us up the Space Needle and explore the ocean up there, as we have never seen the ocean before. Got home from work that afternoon, and my wife was gone. My coworker's wife was there by herself, crying and trying to care for my boys who were also crying. When I asked her where my wife was and if she was okay, she told me my wife left a folder in our room and that she was gone. I of course called her, but it said, "This number you are trying to reach is inactive or unavailable," or some crap along those lines. The folder had divorce papers, some already signed by her. She left a note and basically explained what was happening and what she did. She left me for the man she had an affair with. I guess he was an old coworker of hers. She fell in love and didn't want me anymore. Asked for 25 custody of the kids and left her number for her lawyer. What the F is 25 custody? Weekends only? Every other weekend? Asked that I didn't try to call or text her, that she has a new phone number. I don't know what I did wrong anymore. We were, I thought, on the right track. We started marriage counseling. We were going on dates regularly, communicating, laughing, enjoying each other. I thought everything was starting to improve. She was smiling and laughing so much more. She seems genuinely happier. She was even playing with our boys, something she never did before. How does someone seem so much better and turn around to do this? I know I had effed up before. I neglected her and ignored all the red flags in her mental health. I acknowledge them and take full accountability. I told her it was all my fault, and I know it is. She has every right to leave me. But why did she pretend to be happy if she wasn't? If she wanted a divorce, why didn't she ask? I told her if that is what she needed and wanted that we could, but that I thought we had something to fight for, and she agreed with me. She told me she didn't want a divorce. She said she wanted to grow old and get married. She wanted to be with me. Now she doesn't? She says she has never been happy with me, that she felt forced to have kids when she didn't want any. I never forced her. I asked one time, and when she declined, I kept to myself. I was okay not having kids if she didn't want to go through having them. I was never going to force her into anything. I loved and respected her wishes, and I will respect her wishes now. In her note, she even asked me to Venmo her money to start her off. I sent it to her. I know she will need money for her prescriptions and for food, but I am so heartbroken and honestly pissed off. I am so mad. How does one even go about finding daycare? What do I need to research and look into? Do I need to look for any red flags in daycares? How much does daycare even cost for twins? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Comments AM Done 4093. So I might get some hate for bringing this up, but how long was she having an affair for? I think my first step would be to make sure those are your kids. Secondly, I would contact a divorce lawyer and explain things. As far as daycares, I would physically go tour them before deciding. I'm so sorry that she blindsided you like this. Are you still planning on moving and trying for a fresh start? I've lived in northern Wa State my whole life and love it here. Highly recommend Skagit County. Good luck, OOP. She said she started talking to him either shortly before she gave birth or right after, so probably a little over a year. I honestly am not sure I can right now. I really want to. The school system by us has incredibly low ratings, and having grown up in that school system, I know teachers and students don't care about education. Kids are there because they legally have to, and teachers are there for paychecks. I only passed high school because I just asked my teachers for A's. But right now, I don't know how I would travel across the US with twin infants by myself. I don't have anyone else, and if we do partial custody, I would need permission to move, wouldn't I? Unless that's just something that happens in movies and TV shows. My ex-wife is stalking me 6 months later. I posted some months ago about my wife, Amy, and our twin sons. I was asking for advice on her behaviors, which had come out to be postpartum depression. She and I started therapy, and then she told me she has been having an affair for months, and then left me for that affair partner. It's been a few months now, and just as crap started dying down, my wife shows up at my effing doorstep. This was on Monday. I legally had to give her our new address, and since we had moved from Texas to Washington, I didn't expect her to come up here. I knew she had been stalking me, not full-on creepy stalking, but she was checking out my Instagram stories on random accounts I had her blocked. She would message me on these accounts to brag about her new life. She would talk about how good sex is with whatever STD-ridden guy she was effing that week. She would send photos of herself in different beds, doing various inappropriate acts with different people. She would send photos of dime bags and booze bottles. Whatever she could send, she did, no matter how many accounts I blocked. 2 weeks ago, I just deleted my Instagram because I was effing fed up. And I guess she took it upon herself to show up in person to harass me. I saw her first on my doorbell camera as I was not home and my nanny was there. She looked like she was high or something, picking at her face, and she looked like a twig. She had lost so much more weight than I thought. I told my nanny to not open the door and ignore her. I had to leave work early to get home to convince her to leave. She said she was there to pick up our boys and started accusing me of sexually abusing them or beating them, and said she had proof of whatever the F she was convinced I was doing. She told me she had to convince her boyfriend to drive her to Washington just to grab the kids. She didn't even have car seats in his car for them. His effing back seats were full of bottles, cans, just garbage. I didn't even know how to react to her bullshit, so I called the cops and had her removed from the property. I just don't know what to effing do anymore. She has nothing in Texas, so I'm sure she's gonna find some effing shelter or tent to camp out in close by so she can come harass me. I doubt I can get a restraining order, and I spent all my money buying this house. My boys don't deserve to be forced to go through this crap. They are only a year old, but I don't want this for them. I don't want her around as they grow up. Don't want them to see who she had become because she has never been like this. She used to be so sweet, funny, loving. She always had a smile on her face, and yeah, she was a little crazy from her trauma, but that crazy was nothing compared to whatever she is now. The Amy I knew would never touch hard substances. She barely drank. She hated the idea of sleeping around. Now she's a effing drug addict and homeless. Do I get a wellness check on her? Do I try to fight for a restraining order? I don't know what the F to do anymore. Comments Channel Global 284. I would talk to an attorney about this. I really hope you still have all those pictures she sent, as this will help you immensely. The more unstable you can prove she is, the better for you and your boys. Wishing you the best of luck. Think Tank 111, a good lawyer will use all of this against her and get you that protection order for you and your kids. If she has enough balls to show up at your doorstep high on drugs, there is a high chance when the kids are older she's going to attempt to go to their school and cause trouble one day. More like guidelines, OP. I am a lawyer. I am not your lawyer. and this is really not legal advice. You need to get a lawyer, like yesterday, and I mean a good lawyer. I had a client who dealt with a very similar situation to yours. We got emergency custody and an RO that extended to his children. This argument is about the children's best interest, and she is a danger to them. And her being a danger to you, their primary caretaker, is also a danger to your children. A good attorney will be able to help with this. The debt you take on for a good attorney will be well worth the price for your peace of mind and the safety of your children. And who knows, if you do get the RO and your wife breaks it, you may be able to get her arrested and she can finally detox from whatever substances she's on. Good luck. New update. Final update 16 days later. This is my last update. Please read my previous posts because I don't have energy to summarize the hell I've gone through the last year. She OD'd yesterday at the local homeless encampment. The guy she was drugged up with called an ambulance and ditched her. She is alive and is going to jail once she is well enough because she had a stolen car, multiple stolen phones, and over a dozen children's bikes she stole. I'm going to try to fight for her to be sent into a rehabilitation facility or be put into a psychiatric facility. But my lawyer says that since we are divorced, I likely won't have much say over what happens to her now, if I get any say. I know a lot of people have told me to let go and to let her mess up her own life. But she was my wife. She was my entire world. She was so broken but so loving, and I strongly believe the pregnancy and postpartum brought something out in her that wasn't there before. I have looked into BPD and bipolar disorder, and it feels like since I've known her, she has displayed behaviors of either or. Unfortunately, we both grew up in environments where therapy and treatments for mental health were considered taboo, so she never really got the help she needed. I still love her, or at least love who she was before everything. I don't love her romantically anymore. I don't think this is her. I think she is having some weird psychotic break, and I hope she will get better. I will never go back to her, but I hope for our boys' sake she gets better so they can have their biological mother in their lives. Another quick update, a good one at least. My nanny call her Abby, and I have started dating. She is 29 and has a 14-year-old boy who stays with his dad for the most part due to school and sports. He has been visiting since it's summertime and we get along great. He loves playing with my boys, and my twins seem to enjoy playing with him too. Abby has been wonderful and understanding. She is helping me a lot through this. I just wanted to share something positive since my life outside of her is in complete shambles. Editing to add, I am 25. It appears from some replies and some of my messages that people are worried Abby is young and possibly being taken advantage of. I respect all of those concerns because it does happen a lot, and a lot of women are unknowing victims to power imbalances, especially if it involves a man being significantly older or a man being involved with the help as someone described the situation. Abby is a 29-year-old woman, and I am a 25, almost 26-year-old man. I would never take advantage of a younger woman. This is going to be my final update. Thank you everyone who has been supportive and understanding and helped me get my crap together to be the father I need to be. I appreciate all the advice and criticisms, even the harsh ones. Thank you. Comments Frolic and Detour. Your kids have had enough upheaval in their lives without you dating one of the few stable adults in their lives and possibly causing them to lose her if you break up. Bro, you make shitty decisions. Balerion D. Black Dread. People like OP say things like, I sacrifice so much for my kids. I don't know why they don't talk to me. He won't admit that he kept making crappy decisions that hurt his kids. In his head, he'll always be the victim. When this things with Abby blows up in his face, he'll be back here, talking about how Abby was so nice and loving, but then she changed. He doesn't know what happened. He'll act confused and blame other people. The one thing he won't do is take responsibility for his actions. OP. I'm going to come on here to clarify that my kids do not know Abby and I are dating. Abby and I are keeping it very casual for now, and we have known each other since the time I bought our house. We met on Facebook when I joined a community group. Abby is in therapy on her own accord. She actually had a great childhood from the sounds of it, despite having her son really young. Has very supportive and loving parents, She is college educated and owns her home and her car. I don't plan to tell my boys or her boy for a while. My kids are obviously only a year old, so they won't understand regardless. I am also in therapy, as is she. Individually, of course. We've only been doing this boyfriend-girlfriend thing for a week now. Saying I'm trying to save my ex. What co-parent wouldn't want to see their ex be a part of their kids' lives? Me trying to save her is for my boys to have their mom back, not for me. This has been gone through with my therapist and discussed very thoroughly with them. As for being blacklisted, Abby works on her own. She has licensing and degrees in childhood development and education, so she works for herself, essentially. If this still means I can get blacklisted, I will look into it. If there are issues, I will gladly redefine the terms of Abby's and my relationship so that neither of us loses opportunities. I know that is a whole lot of rambling, but I hope the clarification is somewhat helpful. I can't change how you perceive me, but I do believe everyone deserves to be provided with all the info before they determine how they interpret someone else's actions. I am not saying I am in the right, but I will say that I am trying and have been for a very long time.